So word problems. This chapter is dedicated to word problems. So what we need to do is, for every word problem, we're going to read through it and try and figure out what they're looking for. 2 hints. We need to create 2 variables, and the last sentence of the question is usually telling us what to do. So in this case, find the cost of each item. So in this case, we're selling pop and chips. We've got morning, we've got afternoon. So the key thing here is the cost of each item. We have 2 things, pop and chips. I'm going to create a letter for each one. P is the cost of, and you could use X or Y, but I find using letters that represent the objects makes it easier. Now the second variable is C. I'm going to use C for chips. And what I want to stress is it's not enough just to do P equals pop. It's the cost of one pop. And the last sentence tells you exactly what we're looking for. It could be the number of pops, it could be the weight of a pop, but in this case, it's the cost of one pop. Now that we're done the 2 variables, we have to create the 2 equations. So the equations use the numbers. So in this case, I'm going to highlight all the numbers. Now, once I've got all of them highlighted, I can see that I've got 6 numbers, and every system needs 6 numbers, exactly 6. In this case, I've got 3 in the first sentence, which means that those 3 are going to make an equation. There we go. And the total tells us that I'm going to add them up. So the total of 18 pops and 32 chips equals 65.70. Now, the nice thing about this one, we've got 3 numbers in the second sentence. Those 3 will make the second equation. So there we go. That's setting up my equation. My system is 2 variables, and I have to state what they're representing. That's 1 mark, and then each equation is a mark as well. On your own, I want you to pause the video, try out these questions, or try the next one, see how far you can get. When you get stuck, play the video. Okay, so this one, we're going to look at the last sentence, calculate how many calories each donut and Timbit contain. So the 2 objects are donut and Timbit, and we need to create a letter for each one. So D equals, and the key thing here is how many calories. We need to include these in each variable. So D equals calories in. Now the second one, T. There's a few letters that I don't like to use. T is one of them because they look like a plus sign. Now, if you curve your T or you make it stylized, that's okay. If not, you can always use something like an M. It makes it easier to distinguish and you don't get confused later on. Now for the equations. Now this one has 3 numbers in the first sentence. So that's going to be my first equation. Remember, it's M, not a T. There we go. 7 Timbits plus 3 donuts is 1,846 calories. Second sentence, we've got, so again, 3 numbers. 3 numbers are needed for an equation. So I'm going to put them together. Now, this one goes in a different order, so I'm going to make sure that my M's start first. When I come to solving it, it's important that the M's and the D's are lined up together. There we go. 2 variables, 2 equations. Now we're getting into harder ones. Bag of coins has 113 coins, and it contains only quarters and dimes. We know the weight of a dime, the weight of a quarter, and the total weight. Now, I'm going to start with the last sentence. Find the number of dimes and the number of quarters in the bag. So that's going to be my 2 letters. D and Q are my 2, so D. And be careful, you have to write number of dimes, not just dimes. Tells you in the last sentence what you're actually looking for. So you'll notice this one, I've highlighted 4 numbers, but we need 6 to make a system. So the only number that can be invisible is a 1. So we have to consider that we're going to use these 4 numbers, and 2 of the numbers are going to be the invisible one. Now, the second thing I want to stress is, notice that 3 of the numbers have the same units. Now, the last question, we had 2 with a dollar sign. That means that because it's an even number with a dollar sign, it was going to be split into the 2 equations. Now, if we have 3, we can't split them. That means they have to go together. All 3 with the same units will go together. Now, 4.5 goes with a dime. 7.7 goes with a quarter. So if you have units where there's 3 of them, they all go together in the same equation. Now, 113 coins, it's the only number left. But if you think about it, invisible ones. So I've got 1D. It's not one dime, it's just the number of dimes plus the number of quarters equals 113. That's the tricky one. If you're missing 2 numbers, they're the invisible one, and you have to think about it. Add them up to get 113.